Hello, in this podcast we're going to be looking at the male reproductive system. And the objective for this podcast is that you understand how hormones regulate the male reproductive system. Hormones are part of the endocrine system, and there are two systems that regulate our body. First one, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is the nervous system. Those include such organs as our brain and spinal cord. Those things are involved when something needs to be done quickly and has a short-term effect. Like when you're lifting something, that needs to be able to do that very quickly, and you only do it, and your muscles are only involved for a short time. The second regulatory system is the endocrine system. The main molecule of those are the hormones. The effect of this tends to be much slower, and it can have a very long-term effect to it. A hormone is a protein that is secreted by an endocrine gland. That protein affects another part of the body. As to how it affects, remember earlier we learned about receptor molecules, and just like in the cell actually it is receptor molecules in the cell membrane. The hormones have to have a key, and they only fit into the locks of certain receptor molecules. So a hormone can only go into certain cells, even though the hormones spread throughout the whole body in the blood. Scattered throughout the body, there are different endocrine glands, and that gland is different from, say, the gland in your mouth, which is your salivary gland that produces salivary amylase, which is the enzyme that is involved in digesting bread in your mouth. And basically these glands release hormones into the blood, and that goes throughout the body. One gland that you definitely need to know is the pituitary gland, and that's the master gland, and it's found in the brain. And it's called the master gland because many of its hormones that it secretes will help regulate what goes on in other endocrine glands throughout the body. We have actually run into hormones a little bit earlier. Early in this unit, when we were looking at feedback, we ran into two hormones. We ran into insulin, and insulin is the hormone that helps to regulate the blood sugar levels in your body, and also glucagon, which also regulates blood sugar levels in your body. Now here we have a diagram of the male reproductive system. And basically in that diagram, you need to be able to identify the penis and the testes. Those are the two main organs that can be tested on the Regents exam. You need to know what they do. Also, I've sometimes seen the vas deferens, which is the tube that connects the testes to the penis. And basically the question I've seen on that is, what happens if that is cut? For the testes, you need to know that it produces sperm. You need to know that it is an endocrine gland. There's a bit more for that, and we'll get into that later in this podcast. Sperm are the male gametes, and gametes are sex cells. There are of course two of them. There's the sperm, which is the male gamete, and the egg, which is the female gamete. Now, for male sex hormones, there are four of them that we need to worry about. They're found in two places. One is found in the pituitary gland, which you remember is in the brain, and I have a diagram here that shows you. The hypothalamus that you see there is sort of like a translator type of organ that acts as a go-between between the brain and the pituitary gland. And among the many hormones that the pituitary gland secretes, two of them are sex hormones. One is FSH. In the males, the FSH tells the testes to increase sperm production. It does different things in females. With both the FSH and LH hormones, what the letters stand for don't really make sense in males, but I'll tell you what they stand for in the female reproductive system podcast. The pituitary gland also secretes LH, and the LH tell the testes to increase the secretion of testosterone. Now, the testes, which are found in the scrotum, they secrete testosterone, and the testosterone is basically the male hormone. And it is responsible for male characteristics, and it's also responsible for sex drive. and that's in both genders. Women also have testosterone, and basically the way they get the testosterone is they will take estrogen and convert some of that into testosterone. What the testosterone does is that it will tell the pituitary gland to reduce the secretion of FSH and LH, in addition to making us have the male characteristics. And this last part, and the part you see with FSH and LH, are very important in feedback, in controlling these levels of hormones. Here we see a diagram showing this. Now pretend that the amount of FSH and LH start going up. So what that does is that affects the testes, and what that does is that it tells the testes to increase the amount of tells the FSH and the LH tell the testes to increase the amount of testosterone. And the amount of testosterone will, among other things that it does, will tell the pituitary gland to decrease the amount of FSH and LH. So that will lower the FSH and LH back down to the set level. If the LH and FSH go below the set level, that will cause the amount of testosterone to go down, and if the amount of testosterone goes down, then the negative feedback loop from testosterone going down, that will actually cause the LH and FSH levels to go back up to the set level. So that means that in males, the hormone levels will be regulated to be constant through negative feedback. And this is quite different from females, which we'll see in another vodcast. Now we come to our concluding questions. First question, what is a hormone? Second question, just look at the diagram here. This diagram is taken from a Regents exam. Just write down the letter that is pointing to the testes. Number 3, what do the testes do? Number 4, what does testosterone do? That concludes this podcast, and I will see you in class tomorrow.